Jack and the Beanstalk. Once upon a time, in a tiny cottage at the edge of a village, there lived a boy named Jack and his mother. They were very, very poor. In fact, they were so poor that all they had left in the whole world was one cow, named Buttercup. Buttercup was white, with brown spots, and she had the sweetest, gentlest eyes you ever saw. Jack and his mother loved Buttercup very much, but they had no money left to buy food. Their cupboards were empty, their garden had no vegetables, and their pockets had no coins. One sad morning, Jack's mother said, "Jack, we have no choice. You must take Buttercup to the market and sell her. We need money to buy food, or we'll go hungry." Jack felt tears in his eyes because he loved Buttercup so much, but he knew his mother was right. He gave his mother a big hug, tied a rope round Buttercup's neck, and started walking down the road to the market. The sun was shining, birds were singing, but Jack felt very sad. He walked slowly, patting Buttercup's soft head and telling her everything would be okay. When Jack was halfway to the market, he met a strange old man on the road. The man had a long white beard, twinkling eyes, and a mysterious smile. He wore a purple hat and a coat with more pockets than Jack could count. "Good morning, young man," said the old man cheerfully. "Where are you going with that fine cow?" Jack sighed and told him the whole story about how poor they were and how he had to sell Buttercup. The old man listened carefully, nodding his head. Then he reached into one of his many pockets and pulled out 5 beans. But these weren't ordinary beans. They were the most beautiful beans Jack had ever seen. They sparkled and shimmered with all the colors of the rainbow. "I'll trade you these magic beans for your cow," said the old man with a wink. "Plant them tonight, and by morning you'll see something absolutely amazing. These beans are very, very special." Now, Jack should have thought more carefully about this deal. Magic beans for a whole cow. It didn't sound like a fair trade at all. But Jack was young, and the beans looked so pretty and magical, and the old man seemed so kind and wise. So Jack said yes. He handed Buttercup's rope to the old man and put the 5 magic beans carefully in his pocket. Jack ran home as fast as his legs could carry him, excited to show his mother the magic beans. He burst through the door, calling, "Mother! Mother! Look what I got!" His mother looked up from her sewing, hoping to see a bag of gold coins. But when Jack opened his hand and showed her the 5 beans, her face turned red with anger. "Jack, what have you done?" she cried. "You traded our only cow for 5 silly beans. How could you be so foolish? Now we have nothing. No cow, no money, no food." She was so upset that she grabbed the beans and threw them right out the window into the garden. Then she sent Jack to bed without any supper, which was okay because they didn't have any supper anyway. Poor Jack climbed up to his tiny room in the attic feeling terrible. He had disappointed his mother, and now they had nothing at all. He lay in his bed looking at the stars through his little window, wishing he could take back what he had done. Finally, he fell asleep with tears on his cheeks. When Jack woke up the next morning, his room looked very strange. It was darker than usual. He rubbed his eyes and looked toward the window. Something was blocking the sunlight. Jack jumped out of bed and looked outside, and what he saw made his mouth drop open in amazement. Growing right outside his window was the most enormous plant he had ever seen. It was a gigantic beanstalk that reached up into the sky, so high that the top disappeared into the fluffy white clouds. The beans really were magic. The beanstalk had thick green vines as wide as tree trunks, with huge leaves as big as umbrellas. Jack was so excited he could hardly breathe. Without even stopping for breakfast, which they didn't have anyway, he climbed out his window and started climbing the beanstalk. He climbed and climbed and climbed. His arms got tired, his legs got tired, but he kept going. Finally, after climbing for what felt like hours, Jack reached the top of the beanstalk. And what do you think he found up there? He found another land above the clouds. There was ground to walk on, grass to step on, and flowers growing everywhere. Everything looked normal, except it was all much, much bigger than things on the ground below. Jack started walking, and soon he saw the biggest house he had ever seen in his whole life. It was more like a castle than a house, with walls as tall as mountains and a door as high as a church. Jack's heart was beating very fast, but he was curious and brave, so he walked right up to the enormous door and knocked. Well, he couldn't reach the knocker because it was too high, so he pushed the door and it creaked open slowly. Inside, Jack saw a kitchen bigger than his whole cottage. There was a table as long as a road and a fireplace as big as a cave. And standing by the enormous stove was the tallest woman Jack had ever seen. She was a giant. But she didn't look mean. She actually looked quite kind, with rosy cheeks and a friendly smile. "My goodness," said the giant's wife when she saw tiny Jack. "What are you doing here, little boy? You must leave at once. My husband is a giant, and he loves to eat little boys for breakfast. He'll be home any minute." But Jack was so hungry from all that climbing that he begged, "Please, kind lady, could I have just a little bit of food? I'm so hungry I could eat a horse." "Well, I couldn't really because I'm too small, but you know what I mean." The giant's wife felt sorry for Jack. She gave him a piece of bread and a cup of milk. But the bread was as big as a pillow and the cup was as big as a bathtub. Jack was eating as fast as he could when suddenly the whole house began to shake. Boom, boom, boom! Heavy footsteps were coming closer. "Quick, hide!" whispered the giant's wife, and she pushed Jack into the oven. Don't worry, the oven was cold and not being used. Jack peeked through a crack and saw the biggest, scariest giant stomp into the kitchen. The giant had a long beard, big bushy eyebrows, and a voice like thunder. "Fee-fi-fo-fum! I smell the blood of an Englishman!" roared the giant, sniffing the air like a big dog. "Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." Jack's heart was pounding so hard he thought the giant might hear it. But the giant's wife said sweetly, "Oh, don't be silly, dear. You just smell the sausages I cooked for your breakfast. Sit down and eat." The giant grumbled, but sat down at the enormous table. After the giant ate his breakfast, which included about 50 sausages and a whole loaf of bread, he called out, "Wife, bring me my magic hen." The giant's wife brought in a beautiful golden hen and placed it on the table. The giant patted the hen and said, "Lay!" And the most amazing thing happened. The hen laid a golden egg, a real egg made of solid gold. Jack couldn't believe his eyes. The giant kept commanding the hen to lay eggs, and soon there was a pile of golden eggs on the table. Then the giant yawned a yawn so big it sounded like a windstorm. He put his head down on the table and started to snore.
His snores were so loud they shook the pots and pans. This was Jack's chance. He quietly crept out of the oven, tiptoed across the floor, and climbed up the table leg. The golden hen saw Jack and clucked softly, but she didn't seem to mind when Jack gently picked her up. Jack tucked the hen under his arm and ran as fast as he could toward the door. But just as Jack reached the door, one of the golden eggs rolled off the table and hit the floor with a loud clang. The giant woke up with a snort. "What's that?" he roared. He looked at the table and saw his hen was gone. "Thief, come back here!" The giant jumped up and chased after Jack.
Jack ran faster than he'd ever run in his life. He could hear the giant's huge footsteps behind him. Boom, boom, boom. Jack reached the beanstalk and started climbing down as fast as he could go. The golden hen was clucking nervously under his arm. Down, down, down he climbed. The giant reached the top of the beanstalk and started climbing down after Jack. The whole beanstalk shook and swayed with the giant's weight. Jack looked down and saw his little cottage far below. He looked up and saw the giant getting closer and closer. When Jack finally reached the ground, he shouted, "Mother! Mother! Bring me the axe! Quick!" His mother ran out with the axe and Jack started chopping at the beanstalk with all his might. Chop, chop, chop. The beanstalk began to crack and creak. The giant was still climbing down, roaring with anger, but Jack kept chopping, and finally, with a huge crack, the beanstalk began to fall. It fell sideways with a tremendous crash, and the giant fell with it. He tumbled back up into the clouds where he came from, and he never bothered Jack again. Jack and his mother looked at the golden hen, who immediately laid a beautiful golden egg right there in the garden. Jack's mother hugged him tight, even though she was still a bit cross about him trading their cow for beans. But now they had a magic hen who could lay golden eggs whenever they needed money. From that day on, Jack and his mother were never poor again. Every day the hen laid golden eggs, and they sold the eggs in the village. They bought back a cow, even better than Buttercup. They filled their cupboards with food, they fixed up their cottage, and they had plenty of money to share with other poor families in the village. Jack learned an important lesson from his adventure. Sometimes taking a chance on something magical can lead to wonderful things, but you also have to be brave and clever to make the most of your luck. He also learned that giants are real, so he never climbed any more suspicious beanstalks just to be safe. The golden hen became part of the family. Jack's mama knitted her a little cozy nest, and Jack fed her the best corn and seeds. The hen was very happy in her new home, much happier than she had been with the grumpy giant. And what about the mysterious old man who gave Jack the magic beans? Well, some people in the village said they saw him sometimes, walking down the road with his purple hat and his coat full of pockets, looking for other children who might need a bit of magic in their lives.
See for yourself.
Jack grew up to be a kind and generous man. He never forgot what it was like to be poor, so he always helped people who needed it. He married a sweet girl from the village, and they had children of their own. And you can bet that Jack told his children the amazing story of the magic beans and the giant in the clouds, and they loved hearing it again and again. Thank you so much for listening to Jack's incredible adventure. If you loved hearing about Jack climbing the enormous beanstalk and outsmarting the giant to get the magic golden hen, please click that subscribe button. We have so many more amazing stories waiting for you. Don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss a new story. See you soon for another wonderful tale. Bye.